So the farmer task is an experiential exercise, and the idea is that it's focused on problem solving in team settings. As I promised you before, there are certain types of groups that tend to do very well in this task, and that there's other types of groups that do less well, and hopefully we'll see that unfold. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is pay attention to the group process that emerges, what is actually happening in the group. So from the beginning to the end, what are some of the group processes that you're seeing? What are people doing? Can you anticipate who's going to say what? Does a leader emerge or not? What are some of the group dynamics? The second thing that I'd like you to pay attention to is your own reaction as you are participating. Do you feel frustrated? Are you irritated? Are you engaged? So what is your own process? Because we're going to talk about those two things. Okay? So you're going to pay attention to the group process, pay attention to your own reactions.
Yeah, you guys, every farmer, it says every farmer grows a different kind of fruit. So if we can just identify who's growing fruit.
There, whose motorcycle that is, why is there,
there's no logic
how Pavlov grows cherries.
Well, we managed very fast, very quickly to find a solution when we focus on fruits.
Yeah, so maybe
one of your groups talks.
Okay, well, Pavlov's neighbor raises chimpanzees.
Pavlov is a Russian.
Clearly.
But that's good. We pivoted in the middle, realizing we could do a better job.
Yeah. That would have been really bad if one person had all of them. It would have been disastrous.
It would have been really
Jeff
bad.
would have been really unhappy.
It would have been even worse if you had less than 5 people.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It would have made it more difficult.
Yeah. Right.
Correct answers on there. I know as business school students, you really want to know the right answer. I'm going to tell you the right answer. But I'm not going to tell you the right answer right now. I'm going to do a little bit of a script tease, and then I'll tell you the right answer. So first of all, you should all give yourselves a round of applause. I really didn't think you would do it. So thank you. Okay, so did you notice anything about when and how information was shared? So one of the things that you had to figure out eventually is that this is an inferential task, right? No one person has the right piece of information. One of the things that doesn't work well, which I heard this a couple times, is there are pieces of information that are relevant and there are pieces of information that are irrelevant. One of the interesting things that happen, especially as time starts to count down, is you'll say something like, the temperature in the house is 68 degrees, and then someone goes, oh, that's not relevant. So one of the things that happens is, yes, in fact, that's not relevant, but one of the things that happens is that it shuts the conversation down. So then what happens is certain people stop talking. And in this task, everyone has to be talking because the pieces of information are random. So there's many lessons that come out of this. One is, it's not about how smart the members of the group are, but it's how well the groups integrate their knowledge. And integration of the knowledge requires just a variety of different skills, but diversity is a piece of it. You have to create this kind of collective brain. Because you're sitting there for the first 5 minutes going, I can't believe I have to do this, and there's a spot nearby, right? So that's the first 5 minutes. What are we doing tonight? Is she really going to check? All that has to happen, right? So that's the first 5 minutes. And then you go, okay, what are we going to do here? And then usually what happens for groups that don't do so well is it takes them too long to figure out that you have to store all this information in some way. And if you can pick something, a truck, a person, and you keep repeating it over and over again, you're getting this collective memory going. So yeah, 5 points for you all. So I want to sort of take home a few key points. This idea that diversity works when it feels like it does not. And I want to sort of talk about this piece that diversity works. One of the things that we know from this task is that when you put people together that are very, very different, they usually argue quite a bit, but almost always they solve the task. And there's 2 sort of pieces to remember about this. One is related to demographic diversity, but the other piece about this is related to information diversity and making sure you have people on your team that don't always agree. So there's 2 different pieces to it. So one of the things is that diverse teams tend to excel at information sharing. One of the reasons why KKR has me out here for the whole weekend is they absolutely know that the days of buying low and selling high are over, and that you really need to go out and seek deals. you need to sort of think creatively about where are the markets, what are they going to look like? And so in a new era of private equity, we need to really start thinking about how do we think creatively about deals, particularly when the margins of return are so much lower. And so one of the things that they're saying was really sort of interesting is some of these experiments related to information sharing. So I just want to share one of them and then a few other sort of summary points. So this is a study that took pretty much a very similar task to what you had. But there's many, many studies that they always have the same kind of formula. And so it looks like this. You have a group of individuals. They come into a laboratory. Laboratories are actually great because you can control all kinds of things, like the weather and the hammock and this and that. And you can have people come in, and they have to make some kind of decision. Like they're trying to acquire some kind of mock market or something like this. So that each person has an individual opinion. Then you get the whole group together, and the group has some kind of consult. They all get together and consult. And then the group has to make a decision. So what's nice about this experimental design is that you have two pieces. You can have people making an individual decision, so you can tell whether some people agree with everyone else as a majority opinion or a minority opinion. And you also know what the group has decided. So in one of these studies, what the experimenter did is they said, look, okay, we know that there's people that have a majority opinion. This is the opinion that they know everyone else has. And they know that there are some people that have a minority opinion. But what they did is that they experimentally crossed this idea with the demographic diversity. So you have a group that is all homogeneous. It could be all in terms of ethnicity or gender. It doesn't really matter. But all their demographic characteristics are the same, and they all have a majority opinion. Or you have all the demographic characteristics are the same, but you know there's a few people that have a minority opinion. And then if you complete the crossover design, you have a diverse team, which you know they all have a majority opinion. Or you have a diverse team, and then you know you have a few minority or dissenting opinions. And the question of interest, the outcome that the experimenters are interested in, is information sharing, which is the same kind of outcome that you all just experienced. So when you look here, so on the y-axis here, higher numbers means greater levels of information sharing. One of the key pieces that we know from decades and decades of research is that diverse teams in general, demographically diverse teams, tend to engage in more information sharing. So if I had more time, I could code the demographic diversity of your groups, and I'm pretty sure that that would map onto that kind of finding, that demographically diverse groups tend to engage in greater amounts of information sharing. But there's another piece of this that's really important. And the other piece of this is this majority-minority dissenting opinion. So when you have a homogeneous group, when you have groups that are all the same, as long as you have a few people in the group that have a minority opinion, that have a dissenting opinion, that have opinions that's different than everyone else, you still get high levels of information sharing. Okay? If you have a demographically diverse group, whether it's ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation, or religious beliefs, you don't actually need to have a minority dissenting opinion. And the reason why is because demographically diverse groups so generate these different kinds of perspectives pretty much automatically. The exact take-home point is that there's two different ways to think about diversity. If you have some kind of homogeneous group, you want to mix it up. You want to make sure that you have people that are going to have dissenting opinions. One of the things that's really interesting, a buddy of mine, Dane Holmes, who works with Goldman Sachs, he's always talking to me about deals with Warren Buffett, et cetera, et cetera. We played basketball together at Columbia. One of the things that he talked about, which is amazing about Warren Buffett, is that he actually hires people to disagree with them, to disagree with his team. He hires people, pays them a lot of money to completely disagree. And what he suggests is that it eliminates confirmation bias, it eliminates groupthink. And so you want to have some kind of dissenting opinion. When you have a diverse group, on average, you don't necessarily need to go find a dissenting opinion because it generates a variety of different perspectives. So the research suggests that that these kinds of models of diversity work much better when you have lots of areas of gray, when you're trying to generate new solutions to something. Many kinds of business decisions, you're trying to figure out if you're going to acquire a company or not, you're trying to engage in some kind of negotiation, you're not really sure what the right answer is. These models work better than when there is a right or a specific right or wrong answer. Having said that, even when there's a right or wrong answer, these models still work. They just work significantly, they work less well. So the type of task does matter. So the story of diversity is something like this, is that the demographic diversity is oftentimes a nice, quick proxy for different kinds of opinions, but not always. But many times it can be. And so that's one of the ways it works. In the absence of that, if you know you have an absolutely homogeneous group, then you need, if you want to sort of generate the sort of most effective level of performance, what you want to have is some kind of dissenting. So what I'm trying to do, what these studies try to do, is sort of distinguish between the characteristics of a person that lead that group to be diverse versus the kind of information that they're engaged in. But you're right, there's two ways to think about this. One is that, at least I would say in the past 5 years. So in the past, I don't know that much about private equity, but I have been educating myself quite a bit. In the past, private equity has been fairly uninterested in diversity. I think I can make that statement. As of late, they've become increasingly more interested in it, mainly because of global markets, which is why I sort of talked about this sort of value-added idea. Second, because of the issue of the millennial sort of generational differences, that when you have more and more younger people running companies and tech companies, you really need to sort of fill out your team with people of different ages. And they're sort of starting to get the idea that when you're going into new companies, you're going into mid-sized companies, you can't just have all the same people going in. It just doesn't work well. So I think the idea is starting to get some steam. Another way to think about it is, despite what anxiety you're feeling right now, 10 years from now, you're all going to be doing something really amazing. You're all going to be making a lot of money, and most of you will actually wind up being in private equity. When you look at the data about deal count, most of you wind up going into private equity. So whether you personally feel like you will or not, you will more likely than not will. So then the question is, what are you going to do? What's going to fill out your team? And so another way to think about it is, in the 10 years from now, you'll think about me and sort of fly me out to Greece to come talk to the next generation about this. So you are right that companies they're just starting to sort of think about this, and they're more like, just tell us what to do. We don't care about the science, just tell us what to do. So one of the biggest problems with having a senior leader is that people just in general listen to them, regardless of the demographic diversity. You see this difference with respect to gender. So when you have women that are usually in charge, it just takes longer for people to actually sort of get on board and listen to them when you look at it. Having said that, when I talk to senior leaders, one of the things that I suggest is that when you are in a position of leadership, you really have to work a lot harder to create a space to say that my opinion should be interrogated. So I don't know your name. What's your name? Adrian? So Adrian said something interesting. He said, I'm 6'5", so I thought, like, in this space, I should just kind of take a little bit of a backseat. And he's absolutely right. There's tons of research showing that people look at people who are taller, they spend more time looking at them, they defer to them, and it doesn't actually make any sense because they're just taller, right? I happen to love that, but it's just a demographic characteristic. So what he's saying is that I have to actively sort of take a backseat. It's similar with the effect of leaders. If you want to sort of reduce confirmation bias, you have to sort of create a psychological space and say, in this moment, everyone's opinion actually matters. It's actually really hard to do, and this is one of the things that I've been working with. I've been doing a lot of work with Ernst & Young, with their partners, just to sort of create the psychological space for people to disagree with them. Because the problem is, we're pretty much regardless of demographic diversity, if you're in charge, people are just going to follow what you say. So what I want to do is I want to sort of share a couple of things. One is that when people think about diversity, they usually think about diversity fatigue. I'm sure you all came in here and you're like, oh crap, I have to like do this whole 90-minute thing on diversity. What I want to suggest to you is that it can be a really effective and powerful weapon when it's done correctly. And one of the take-home messages is that it's actually a science, that people spend many, many years trying to understand all the components to make this work. And so what you want to do is you want to be educated about what the research says. When does it work? When does it not work? You don't want to just fluff this off to someone who's doing human resources, guaranteed it'll be done poorly, and then you won't reap the benefits of it. The second thing is that diversity requires a little tiny bit of a leap of faith. When you take some of the research in the laboratory, you take all these interviews, it's not really clear altogether if 15 years from now it's going to sort of yield all of these amazing benefits that I'm trying to sell you right now. Well, one of the things that we do know is that time and time again, in the immediate moment, you still reap these benefits over and over again. If you're clear about what you're talking about, what the tasks are, what the time frame is, at least at a local level, it seems to work very effectively. But it takes a little bit of a leap of faith. So with that, I hope that you've learned a few things, that you're going to leave here thinking a little bit differently, and that you have some new thoughts that are inspired with respect to diversity. So with that, I will end, and thank you.